Are you mesmerised by beautiful photos of dreamy waterfalls? Blown away by dramatic nighttime street photos with those artistic light trails and fine art architectural photos? Yet when you try to take the photos, those pictures look a little boring and unimaginative. One of the secrets to taking artistic photos is to have a long exposure, and for that you're going to need an ND filter. But which one? In this video I'll walk you through 4 key things you need to know about ND filters, why they're essential for creative photography, the different types and strengths, how to choose the right one for your subject, and we'll look at variable ND filters and whether they're a viable alternative. I've got a nice example from K&F, it's from their Nano XL series, and I'll be testing that later on, so stick around if you want to see how I get on. One of the secrets to creating artistic photos is to use a long exposure. Now on a bright sunny day, that can be very difficult because you just can't get a shutter speed slow enough to create the effect you need. If you're looking for things like dreamy waterfalls with those soft silky tones, or gorgeous sunsets with spectacular skies, you achieve that by making your exposure longer. Now, if the shutter speed your camera is metering for is too fast, the only way you're going to stop that is by putting some sunglasses over your lens, and that's all an ND filter is. But it's a bit more like those, I think they call them photochromic sunglasses, which get darker as the light gets brighter. ND filters come in different strengths, and you can even get a variable ND filter, which is what I'll be testing later on, where you can vary the strength just in the one filter. So how do you go about choosing the right filter for your photography? Let's just explain the different types of filter system. So first of all, there is the fixed ND filter. You buy these in a diameter that will screw on to the end of your lens, and you buy them in a fixed strength, for example a 10 stop or a 6 stop. The next type of system you can buy is a filter system, where basically you buy a filter holder, you have an adapter that puts this holder onto your lens, and then you buy your filters. They're usually square or rectangular, and they slot in to this filter holder. Now they come in different formats. You can buy these at whatever budget suits you. When you get up to more sophisticated filter systems, you'll also get things like these, which block any stray light from creeping in. And you'll be able to mount multiple filters in the same holder. For example, you could put a 6 stop and a 10 stop in here and create a 16 stop filter. And the other thing you can get is variable ND filters. This is the K&F Nano XL series. They were kind enough to send me a copy. Full disclosure, I should say, they're not paying for this video, they're not sponsoring it. This is entirely my opinion about it. All they've done is send me a free filter. I have to say, the packaging is lovely. It comes with this nice leather pouch, has a nice quality feel about it. And with a variable ND filter, what you have is the ability to change the strength. By twisting this outer ring, I can change the strength of the filter. This goes from 1 stop up to 8.66 stops as I vary the filter. Now, the usual criticism of variable ND filters is it's a compromise. So you can get things like vignetting, and you'll also get, right at the strongest setting of the filter, you can get a dark cross. Now that isn't a quality problem, it's a function basically of physics and the way they're creating these, that you get this dark cross. But provided you avoid that very darkest stop, then these can be a great solution. My major piece of advice to you is, when you're setting your budget to buy your filters, think about the lenses that you're going to be putting it on. Why would you put a $20 filter on a $2,000 lens? You're not going to ruin all the optical quality you spent thousands of dollars on by putting a cheap piece of glass in front of it. So don't do that with your filters. One other great tip I've got for you, check out all your different lenses. Which one has the largest diameter? For example, it might be 77mm, and buy your filters at that size. Because you can buy adapter rings. These are very cheap, they're literally only a few dollars, and you can then use one of these with your filter to put it onto your lenses that are smaller diameter. That way you don't need to buy a filter for every lens. It's a kind of compromise of buying a filter system, if you like. The subject you're photographing and the style of photograph you want to create is really the deciding point for what kind of filter you need. For example, if I'm taking photographs in a fine art style of architecture, I'm going to do a very long exposure. It's probably going to be around 5 minutes, and my camera is going to be mounted on a tripod, and I'm really going to take my time about everything. And for that, I would use a fixed neutral density filter, not a variable. The reason is I'm taking my time and I'm not worried about the extra time it takes to set up with a fixed system, and I can calculate exactly what filter I need. However, if I'm on the street doing nighttime street photography and I maybe want to play around with light trails, then setting up using a tripod and a filter system and so on is a lot more inconvenient. And that's where a variable ND filter can come into its own. Extremely convenient to use. The light is probably changing quite a lot depending on your scene, how much traffic there is and so on, and having that ability to switch very quickly between, for example, a 3-stop and a 6-stop is really convenient. So a variable ND filter is a great choice for that kind of scene. I would say the same if I was traveling and I don't want to carry a lot of gear. Just carrying one variable ND filter is preferable when I compare it to carrying a bulky filter system with me. I'm going to go out now, test this K&N variable ND filter, and we'll go and try and catch a bit of a sunset on top of a local hill. I found myself a nice location. I'm looking out over the Lake District Fells just as the sun is getting low in the sky and starting to set. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a shot without any filter at all. I'm going to use that as my kind of baseline shot. Now I would say conditions tonight aren't really great for doing this long exposure photography because there isn't much going on in the sky. If the clouds are moving quickly, that would make much more drama in the sky when you do a longer exposure. But let's see what we get. Now, I'm going to move on and take pictures with the K&F variable ND filter. I need an adapter ring to get this on, and actually I went out and bought a K&F version as well. I've got that fitted to my lens. A couple of points about that: the filter does feel really nice in your hand, got a nice weight to it. It's easy to grip, it's got dimpled edges, so that makes it easy to screw on and off. And I have to say, a common problem with filters is often they get stuck onto your lens and you can't unscrew them. I've not had this issue at all with this filter. The other thing I really like is it's got a big lever, making it easy to adjust the variable ND part of it, and it's also got some markings on the outside edge that show you what kind of setting you've got. My only criticism would be I would rather have numbers than dots to show me where I am, and then I've got a clear idea of exactly how much filtering I'm putting on. So let's take a first shot, and at this I'm going to choose it at its lightest end at around 2 stops. Now I should say I'm using a 16 to 35mm lens, and I'm using it very close to 16mm because that's the toughest test. And what I'm really looking for is to see if this lens produces any vignetting, because vignetting is a real pain in the ass when you're trying to edit. Because it discolors your photos at the edges, it can be difficult to remove. So let's take that shot. Now I'm going to adjust the filter and take one at a mid setting, somewhere I think close to 4 or 5. And then finally I'm going to take one close to the maximum darkness I can get with this filter, which should be around 9 stops. If I go too far, you get this kind of effect. So I'm going to back it off from its maximum, just enough to get rid of that dark cross, and I'll take that shot. Now let me swap that over and put on my fixed system. This is a system from Format High Tech, and I'll take some shots with that. Now in the fixed system I have a 3-stop, a 6-stop and a 10-stop filter. So I'm going to take one with the 3, so let me get that set up and in, and let's get that shot. Now I'll swap that out and I'll put in my 6-stop. Now just for fun, and because this sky isn't particularly dramatic, I know I really need a really long exposure to do anything with this. I'm going to combine my 6 and 10 and take a 16-stop shot just to show you what can be achieved. Right, let's head back and see how those have come out. So this is the first shot without any filtering. I've taken it at f22, a 20th of a second, ISO 50, and this is straight out of camera with no editing. Right, now let's look at the one with the K&F filter. This is at about 2 stops, so the exposure time has now gone up to 1/8 of a second, which, with the way the sky is tonight, is not going to make much difference to the artisticness or drama of the photo. And as you can see, it's come out well. Key point is, let's have a look around the edges, and we can't see any vignetting, so that's really great. So now moved on to my next version. This was around 4 or 5 stops. My exposure time has gone up to just under half a second, so it's actually 0.4 of a second. All the other settings are the same. And again, if we look around the edges, we can't see any vignetting. We can see just a tiny change in colour, but you'd expect that with putting an ND filter on anyway. Now, when I've gone up to the darkest setting, this is now at 1.6 seconds. So we can see a little bit more drama in the sky. I can start to see that there's a little bit more colour around the sunset. It's not very pronounced, but it has improved the photo a little bit. And crucially, if I look around the edges again, there is no vignetting. Now let's look at the ones from the format high-tech system. Here's the one at 3 stops, and this was 3.2 seconds exposure. And here's the one at 6 stops, and that was a 4-second exposure. You see, the big difference with both of these is the colour matches very close to the one without any filters at all. And just for fun, here's the one I took with 16 stops after it's been edited, and you can see that 16 stops was actually 130-second exposure, and that's now what's added some drama to my picture and made it more artistic, that really long exposure. So when you're deciding on a filter, budget is an absolutely key part of it. The filter I got from K&F actually cost me around £80 to £85 because it's the 82mm diameter version, and that's its full retail price. Now if I compare that with my format high-tech system, it cost me around £300. That's a colossal difference in price, and that's why you're seeing the better image quality. But I've got some good news for you. If you use the code Richard12, you can get 12% discount off this filter. So that would bring it down to around £75. And I think the image quality at that kind of value is really great. Good news is you can use this discount code across the complete website. So whatever products you're looking for, from tripods to microscopes, you can get a good discount from it. Now you know one secret to capturing artistic photos, I have some more good news for you. If you're getting into photography and want to know the secrets of how to take breathtaking photos, I have opened up 5 free consultation calls. Together we can create a personalised game plan for you for free to get you taking some stunning images with confidence in just a few weeks. On the call, we'll dive into your photography journey, what excites you, what frustrates you, and what's stopping you from getting the results you want. Whether you're struggling with your camera settings, unsure how to give your photos the wow factor, or just need a clear direction, I'll help you map out the next steps so you can start seeing real improvement fast. Make sure you don't miss out. Book your call now while there are still some slots available. So that's all for this video. I hope you have some fun with ND filters and create some artistic masterpieces, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.